or minor, all news offered at least the possibility of significance. The great events of the era, observers knew, were composed of many small details, any of which might later seem critical. To lose track of the news, even temporarily then, might mean missing something important. The issue of the Federal Mirror that Russell and Davis published a week after their apologetic notice devoted nearly 3 of its 4 pages to foreign news and featured almost no domestic information. They shared column after column about revolutionary France and European warfare from French, London, and Hamburg papers. The most important news concerned the ratification of a treaty between France and Spain. But their pages also recounted a few minor battles and tracked the movements of armies and their leaders. Apparently impressed with this haul, Russell and Davis boasted, "Our readers will find in this day's paper much important intelligence relative to foreign affairs. We hope our newsmongers will not grumble this week for want of news." Readers often had more reason to grumble about an excess rather than a dearth of foreign news. The growth of an extensive periodical press across the 17th and 18th century Atlantic world accelerated the production and distribution of news. The sheer volume of information originating from across the early modern world overwhelmed many observers, particularly as much of it proved to be contradictory. A surfeit of news required people to reconcile multiple, competing accounts of the world. Had the Duke of York been captured in battle? Was an account of emancipation in Saint-Domingue fabricated? Whereas some contradictory accounts could be resolved in a clear, binary manner, others were subject to more dispute. When would the Irish revolt? How had the Queen of France behaved during her execution? Unfortunately, early North Americans were not very good at dispassionately answering these kinds of questions. While judges relied on rules of evidence in their courtrooms, newsmongers obeyed no rules. Instead, they trusted their intuitions. Treating truth as a commodity, observers sought out and shared the news that reinforced their preferred narratives of the world. The revolutionary events of the era seemed to be a triumph of liberty over despotism for many, while others saw them as conflicts between anarchism and order. Protestant Christians saw signs of a new millennium, while radicals expected an end to imperialism or slavery. With an unending supply of varied raw information, advocates for a particular interpretation of events had no trouble collecting evidence to support their perspective. Like pale mirrors, their letters and newspapers reflected their identities back to them. Multiple representations of reality destabilized North American politics. As anyone on social media today knows, it is impossible to have a meaningful political discussion with someone who does not share your fundamental understanding of the world. Instead of proceeding along the tidy path of reason and persuasion, the information politics of revolutionary America became bogged in the mud of mutual mistrust and misunderstanding. Foreign news and politics, fact and friction, collided according to a predictable pattern. Encountering multiple renderings of reality, mediators made politicized choices about what foreign information to share with others. This created a context for political action within the continent as people made decisions about which political factions to join, which petitions to sign, and which arguments to pursue, based in part on their imperfect understanding of the larger world. They also formed political factions that sustained themselves by molding the truth while accusing their rivals of doing the same. Convinced that their vision of reality was essentially truer than that of their opponents, parties circulated and validated congenial accounts while questioning news that they disliked. This disordered and politicized distribution of news, so familiar in the 21st century,